If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. We've all heard the predictive programming from Bill Gates talking in advance. Everyone's talked about, Bill Gates he said beforehand, he warned us that this was going to happen, and why didn't we listen? It's called predictive programming. And it isn't just Bill Gates who spoke about a pandemic occurring down the line. Specifically, a few of these people actually used they used phrases like 5 years from now, which ended up being the 2019, 2020, which how ironic is that? But there's people out there who understand what predictive programming is. Predictive programming is them showing you what they're going to do before they do it. They use films to do this. They use politicians to do this. This desensitizes your brain. For when this happens, it already makes your brain prepared for it. And then when they come in with the rules, the regulations, and show you this, what's happening in the world on the television set, your brain's already desensitized to it because you've seen it before. Now, you might not remember exactly where, but then you see clip after clip after clip of movie after movie after movie showing you this, preparing you for it. That way, when you turn the TV on, or maybe you don't have a TV, you turn the internet on, because everybody's clearly on the internet if you're here on YouTube. So for the people out there who like to go, I don't have a TV, I shut it off 10 years ago, and I tell people not to watch the TV, but I'm on the internet. Same difference. People watch the TV on the internet, you watch YouTube, you read. It's the same difference. The propaganda is everywhere. But they've been planning this, and I'm going to show you now in a nice variety of clips, starting with Barry Obama, who openly told us to plan for this, to George Bush, to movies, to everyone. It wasn't just Gates preparing people for a pandemic. It wasn't just that specific person that seems to always get the credit, Bill Gates. Everyone's been telling everyone about it for a reason, to prepare people for it. The National Strategy for Pandemic Influenza, Homeland Security Council. Inside of that manual tells you exactly what they're doing right now. Social distancing, all of this stuff. This has been planned for a long time. And now they are taking and collecting all the data they're getting from it to see how people are reacting to it. Do they need to do more mind control? Do they need to do more things to work our society into accepting a life of social distancing forever? Into accepting a life where mandatory vax are going to be used and needed. These are all things that are going to happen. They just have to make sure that they have the pulse of the people. And right now, they're using all the data that they can gather from every form of the internet to everywhere possible through tracking you on your smartphones to seeing if you're obeying, so that they can use that data and decide if it's time to roll through with this or if they need 5 more years for phase 2 to go through with it. But one way or the other, it's going to happen unless people rise up against it. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. But here is the pandemic, years and years of people preparing you for it.
There may and likely will come a time in which we have both an airborne disease that is deadly. And in order for us to deal with that effectively, we have to put in place an infrastructure, not just here at home, but globally, that allows us to see it quickly, isolate it quickly, respond to it quickly. And it also requires us to continue the same path of basic research that is being done here at the NIH, that Nancy is a great example of, so that if and when a new strain of flu, like the Spanish flu, crops up, 5 years from now or a decade from now, we've made the investment. And we're further along to be able to catch it.
Speed and kind of pace with which it's spread. When you look at it, what is it that you think it tells us about maybe the potential for pandemics or anything?
We're going to have to get quicker and nimbler at developing biomedical responses, the vaccines or whatever, or cures.
It is vital that our nation discuss and address the threat of pandemic flu now. There is no pandemic flu in our country or in the world at this time. But if we wait for a pandemic to appear, it will be too late to prepare. Scientists and doctors cannot tell us where or when the next pandemic will strike or how severe it'll be. But most agree, at some point we are likely to face another pandemic. A pandemic is a lot like a forest fire. If caught early, it might be extinguished with limited damage. If allowed to smolder, undetected, it can grow to an inferno that spreads quickly beyond our ability to control it. Our strategy is designed to meet three critical goals. First, we must detect outbreaks that occur anywhere in the world. Second, we must protect the American people by stockpiling vaccines and antiviral drugs and improve our ability to rapidly produce new vaccines against a pandemic strain. And third, we must be ready to respond at the federal, state, and local levels in the event that a pandemic reaches our shores. To meet these three goals, our strategy will require the combined efforts of government officials and public health, medical, veterinary, and law enforcement communities, and the private sector. It will require the active participation of the American people, and it will require the immediate attention of the United States Congress so we can have the resources in place to begin implementing this strategy right away. And one day, many lives could be needlessly lost because we failed to act today. By preparing now, we can give our citizens some peace of mind knowing that our nation is ready to act at the first sign of danger, and that we have the plans in place to prevent and, if necessary, withstand an influenza pandemic. In a pandemic, an infection carried by one person can be transmitted to many other people, and so every American must take personal responsibility for stopping the spread of the virus. To provide Americans with more information about pandemics, we're launching a new website, pandemicflu.gov. That ought to be easy for people to remember. Pandemicflu.gov. The website will keep our citizens informed about the preparations underway, steps they can take now to prepare for a pandemic, and what every American can do to decrease their risk of contracting and spreading the disease in the event of an outbreak. A pandemic is unlike other natural disasters. Outbreaks can happen simultaneously in hundreds or even thousands of locations at the same time. And unlike storms or floods, which strike in an instant and then recede, a pandemic can continue spreading destruction in repeated waves that can last for a year or more.
Your car, sir. You're taking your car. No, I'm not. I'm immune. I've already had it. And my daughter's not sick.
We have exhausted our supply of meals ready to eat for today.
What?
Please remain calm. Don't be set free. Hey, can we get some help over here?
I know what I told you, but now I'm telling you we're facing a new strain. it spreads like the flu. You got 19 dead, you got hundreds more infected, and it's spreading like a brush fire. You got to isolate the sick, and I mean really isolate them, Billy. We got to get everybody else back into their houses. We got to keep them there.
Like so many epidemics before, the loss of so many lives began with a single microscopic organism, the Rika virus, spread among the population of Glasgow like a common cold. It claimed the lives of thousands in the first week.
What now?
The airports, seaports, and borders were closed. The people were ordered to stay in their homes, to avoid travel, avoid contact.
Excuse me, sir. Would you mind letting me have a look at the contents of your bag, please?
Biological samples. I have the papers right here.
Well, I'm going to have to ask you to open this up, sir.
Open it.
It's empty.
Well, yes, to be sure. It looks empty. But I assure you it's not. There, you see? Also invisible to the naked eye. It doesn't even have an odor.
We've lost entire cities.
When there's no more people left to infect, they go dormant. Whole cities are lost.
The World Health Organization has created a vaccine that works as a kind of camouflage, making people who receive it invisible to the infected.
Delivering the vaccine to areas that have been cordoned off.
Distribution efforts began in earnest.
The importance of getting